GBS.
A very good evening. This is GBS News at 9 coming to you live from Kenya's capital, Nairobi. My name is Beatrice Njeri. Our sign language interpreter is Paul Mathenge, and together we'll be taking you through the stories making headlines tonight. But first, here are the highlights.
I want to give the people of Kenya an assurance that our government listens to them.
Now it is clear Ruto names 4 opposition names into cabinet. Among them, former Mombasa Governor Ali Hassan Joho as Minister for Mining and Blue Economy. ODM strongholds celebrate after President William Ruto names 4 opposition members into government.
I will well and truly serve the Republic of Kenya.
New Commissioner of Prisons sworn in as state promises salary increment to prison officers beginning the end of this month. And in sports, Kenya Police Bullets placed in TAF Group A for the 2024 CAF CESAFA qualifiers in a draw conducted in Cairo, Egypt. To begin our bulletin, the opposition party, Orange Democratic Movement, has been awarded a package of 4 cabinet secretary nominee slots announced today by President William Ruto at State House, Nairobi. The naming of these 4 ODM party members justifies a series of events that have been occurring between the ODM party and other party associates in the Azimio coalition headed by the opposition leader Raila Odinga. Our political affairs reporter Davis Karani has the details.
Heading to the podium secretly alongside his deputy president and the prime cabinet secretary Musalia Mudavadi, the head of state finally graced the longest-serving opposition party ODM in his cabinet secretary nominee announcement.
I have now forwarded the name of John Mbadi Ngongo to the Ministry of National Treasury and Economic Planning, the Honorable James Opio Wandai, Ministry of Energy and Petroleum, the Honorable Hassan Ali Joho, Ministry of Mining, Blue Economy and Maritime Affairs, the Honorable Wycliffe Ambetsa Oparanya, Ministry of Cooperatives and Micro, Small and Medium Enterprise Development.
The 4 powerful cabinet nominee positions offered to the ODM party by the head of state justifies the occurrences that took place between the Homa Bay Town Member of Parliament and the party's Secretary General Edwin Sifuna as a delaying tactic played to the other Azimio party proponent.
We met as ODM and we resolved. I'm saying this because I don't want some confusion I've seen circulating. Somebody writing saying if members of the ODM party are appointed to government, they are going on their own. We met and resolved so. And Honorable Speaker, don't say no. When the ODM party speaks, even as the Azimio has spoken, Honorable Speaker, there is a tendency coming up in this country. Honorable Speaker,
according to Sifuna's press statement, he stated that as the ODM party, they'll not allow anybody from their party to join the Kenya Kwanza administration, and anybody doing so will not have a blessing from the party, and instead, they would have done it by their own interest, a move believed to be a delaying tactic aimed to cool their proponents after they were attacked at Jaramogi Memorial Center. Davis Karani, GBS News, Nairobi.
Hundreds of Mombasa residents have taken to the streets to celebrate the nomination of former Mombasa Governor Hassan Joho as a cabinet secretary. President William Ruto on Wednesday made this public his final list of the nominee for the positions of CSs. Joho was nominated as the Mining and Blue Economy Cabinet Secretary, while Wycliffe Oparanya was nominated as the Cabinet Secretaries for Cooperatives and MSME Development. Both Joho and Oparanya are in the ODM party. In Mombasa, where Joho enjoys a fanatical following, hundreds of residents converged at Treasury Square to celebrate his appointment. Meanwhile, Migori residents have now welcomed the president's decision to include opposition members in his cabinet. The elated locals called on those nominated to the cabinet to work together and help grow the country's economy if approved by members of the National Assembly. They also expressed confidence that nominated Member of Parliament John Bandi was up to head with the Treasury. Coming on the backdrop of perceived divisions within the ODM of an agreement to work with the government, Migori residents asked leaders in the region to support the cabinet nominees. They expressed optimism that individuals from the region who have been nominated will help the region develop.
Amani na amani. Tuko na furaha, tumefurahi sisi wote. Hawa wote ni vijana. Wamefurahi juu chenye walikuwa nataka wamepata. Na vijana wote! Vijana wote! Sisi kama wanajensi wa Homa Bay tunashukuru sana Raila Amolo Odinga kwa sababu yale ambayo amefanya. Leo hii tunaona ile matunda. Tuko na John Mbadi Ng'ong'o. Sisi tunasema ya kwamba sasa tunatangaza tu amani, amani na amani.
Our beloved, the father of the evolution, Baba Raila Amolo Odinga, wagoni giro kamano kumukang magikaw maduong magkuro gikete Mbadi Nyang, Chief
Secretary nominees after dissolving his cabinet on the 11th of July after weeks of deadly anti-government protest. In an address to the nation at State House, Nairobi, Ruto disclosed a second batch of 10 cabinet nominees. However, the head of state has not given names of those nominated to the office of the Attorney General and the Cabinet Secretary for the Ministry of East African Community, Arid and Semi-Arid Lands and Regional Development. Here are the details.
President William Ruto has finally made public his final list of nominees for the positions of cabinet secretaries.
Once constituted, the new cabinet will steward our transformation agenda that is already in place in providing effective and efficient public services, expanding opportunities for employment and wealth creation, and creating a tide that lifts every boat.
The nomination comes weeks after President William Ruto sacked his entire cabinet, sparing only Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi. The nominees who have made it to the final list are John Mbadi, who will be heading the National Treasury, Kipchumba Murkomen, who will be heading the Youth Affairs, Creative Economy and Sports docket. Wycliffe Oparanya will be heading the Cooperative and MSMEs Development docket. Stella Soilangat will be heading the Gender, Culture, Arts and Heritage docket, replacing Alfred Mutua. Rebecca Miano will be heading the Tourism and Wildlife docket. Opio Wandawi will now be heading the Energy and Petroleum docket. The Public Service docket will now be headed by Justin Muturi. Salim Vuria will now be heading the Investments, Trade and Industry docket. Alfred Mutua will now head the Ministry of Labour and Social Protection. Hassan Joho will now be heading the Blue Economy. As for Kithure Kindiki, he will now be maintaining the Ministry of Interior and National Administration, replacing Susanna Humicha. Deborah Mulongo Baraza will now be heading the Ministry of Health. Shifting from the Ministry of Defense, Eden Duale will now head the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Forestry. Davis Chirchi will now be heading the Roads and Transport Ministry. As for Soipan Tuya, she will now be the head of Ministry of Defense. Eric Muga will now be heading the Ministry of Water, Sanitation and Irrigation. Replacing Ezekiel Machogu, Julius Migosi will be heading the Ministry of Education. The Ministry of Lands, Public Works, Housing and Urban Development will now be headed by Alice Wahome. Displacing Mithika Linturi, Dr. Andrew Karanja will now be the Minister of Agriculture and Livestock Development. Dr. Margaret Ndungu will now be the head of the Ministry of Information, Communication and the Digital Economy. Maintaining his two offices, Musalia Mudavadi will still be the head of Foreign Affairs and still be the Prime Cabinet Secretary. Ruto did not, however, mention the name of the Attorney General and the East Africa Community and ASAL nominees. After the full listing of cabinet nominees, this means they will be heading to vetting stage, whereby the successful candidates will be occupying the new cabinet. Hilary Kabila, GBS News, Nairobi.
The ongoing reconstitution of the cabinet had threatened to split Raila Odinga's Orange Democratic Party. ODM Secretary General Edwin Sifuna on Tuesday had a party communication saying the party is not negotiating with Kenya Kwanza government for any coalition or political arrangement, but focusing on a national conversation for a better Kenya. The party had also warned its members against making themselves available for cabinet appointments in an announcement that had added confusion in ODM's plans to work with the government under the proposed broad-based government. This led the members of parliament in the National Assembly from the ODM, led by Suba legislator Honorable Peter Kaluma, to take Sifuna to task on his communication, threatening to eject him from the party. But now, as it stands, was ODM diverting attention to the fact that now the president has named its members to the cabinet post?
There, Honorable Speaker, as a person from an ethnic community, I will not agree to a position where people says everybody is in the government of Kenya except Luos. Yet Luos also pay taxes. Honorable Speaker, I therefore want to congratulate the President for the appointment, but request the President that within the week, as soon as tomorrow, we want to see those other appointments Baba was to forward to him. And we want all of them approved. And Honorable Speaker, if that can happen, then we are going to push this thing very fast. We cannot leave anybody out. And Honorable Speaker, let me send a warning. We want to tell people sending conflicting positions from the ODM to remember that they are on an interim position in those positions. We can remove them if we resolve a position and then they contradict it. This one has to happen for the good of the nation, and we are telling the government we are ready to serve to secure that Kenya moves properly. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Order, honorable members. Order. Next order. Next order. Next order.
Many thanks for joining this live broadcast. We have a lot lined up for you in our news segment tonight. But first, let us take a quick break. We'll be right back with even more.
The moment we receive the word of God in our heart, from that moment, God starts working in our life. So the four lepers, they did not have hope. In fact, when you see them, they were so weak, and God has chosen the weak things of the world to confound the things which are mighty. So when you see from the Bible, Jesus, he became their hope. And Jesus can also become Jesus can become our hope when we have no hope.
We have newly-wedded couples in the house. They are going to tell us about their journey.
So for me, mimi nilikuwa msumbufu since I was young. So my mom was tough on me. Kabisa.
So for me, I feel wazazi wangu wote walikuwa so tough, walikuwa so strict. Hakukuwa na the softer one, like walikuwa kimoja.
After high school sasa unajua mimi nilikuwa nimeambiwa kuna ka college fulani mahali utaenda usome. But for me nilikuwa najua acha niende nitafute tu dem. Juu sana shamaliza shule.
Of course ningeenda CU, nilikuwa naenda enter. So hizo ndio vitu mbili zinilivutia sana kuja IYF.
Na mmekutana hivyo. Mlijua itakuja kuwa hivi ama what happened after that?
Personally nilikuwa nimeshachoka na story na dating na relationship. Nilikuwa nataka kukuwa anti mado.
Pesa. Hii video imeweza kutrend sana. Ningependa sana ichezwe. At least tuanzie from there.
Everywhere, GBS.
Welcome back. You're still watching GBS News at 9. Embu and Kirinyaga journalists on Wednesday joined the rest of the journalists countrywide by holding a joint demonstration in Embu town to protest against police brutality. The journalists later presented a petition to Embu County Commissioner Jack Obuo, who committed to upholding media freedom.
Na kama mnavyoona tuko hapa na waandishi wa habari wa Kirinyaga na Embu. Na tungependa kusema kitu moja tu kwa kifupi. Kwamba hii ndoa kati ya watu wa media, polisi na serikali inaelekea kufika mwisho. Manake hatuwezi kuwa wakati wao wako na jambo wanataka watu wa media waingilie, wasaidie na wajulishe mwananchi ni nini inawaumiza. Lakini ikifika saidi yetu sisi tunaumia, wanatudhulumu, wanatunyanyasa. Juzi tuliona mwandishi wa habari wa Standard kule Nairobi ambao alirushwa nje ya moving car na vyombo zake za habari. Hiyo ni kitu inaudhi na ni kitu inasitikisha sana. Na tungependa kusema hivi, hata sisi hata kama sisi ni wanahabari, sisi bado ni watoto wa watu, sisi ni mabibi za watu na sisi ni mabwana za watu. Na sisi ni andiko za watu. Kwa hivyo tafadhali tuheshimiwe. Na kuwa mwandishi wa habari Kenya hii, wewe si mkora. Kwa hivyo tuache kuchukuliwa kama wakora.
Tuko kwenye kaunti ya Embu ambapo tuko zote kukemea kitendo ambacho kilifanyika huko kaunti ya Nakuru, ambapo mwandishi mmoja wa habari alipigwa risasi 1, 2, 3 mpaka 4. Alafu kuna kutekwa nyara kwa Mashari ya Gaidho. Ni kitendo ambacho tunakikemea, na kwa hivi sasa leo tuko hapa kwenye kaunti ya Embu ambapo tutakuwa tukizunguka tukielezea serikali kuwa tunataka tupatiwe freedom ya kufanya kazi yetu. Niwakumbuke kuwa wako njioni wakifanya mambo yao, wakiangalia news, na sisi tunakuwa tukifanya hiyo kazi yote. Kwanza tunaambia county government na national government kuwa sisi tunataka uwazi. Uwezi kuwa wewe unatuambia kuna project fulani imefanyika, utuambii ni pesa ngapi. Kwa hivyo tunataka uwazi, na ndio tuko hapa kwa hivi sasa, na tutakuwa tukizunguka kaunti ya Embu hata ikiwezekana mpaka jioni. Asante.
We in Embu have also received your petition, and we are going to share it among ourselves and also cascade the same to our people in the ground, so that when we deal with you in the field. We know that the media freedom is enshrined in the Constitution. Article 43 is very clear, and we are all honoring this. So we are alert that at any time when we find any organization or any entity violating media freedom by either molesting a journalist or a practitioner in the media fraternity, we deal with this person as a criminal, because the Constitution is clear on what the state should do to protect your rights and what boundaries you also have. So with us, we have not had any issues. But that does not mean maybe there are other issues which have never been reported. Petition well received.
Journalists across Kenya staged protests today expressing their outrage against police brutality and intimidation, particularly aimed at those covering anti-government demonstrations. The protest, organized by the Kenya Editors Guild and the Kenya Union of Journalists, was sparked by alarming incidents involving media personnel, including the mistaken arrest of veteran journalist Macharia Gaitho and the shooting of Catherine Wanjeri Kariuki, a correspondent for Kameme TV. Susan Nganga with the full report.
Staying true to their threats, journalists in Nairobi and other parts of the country staged protests today against police brutality and intimidation, particularly targeting those covering anti-government demonstrations. Organized by the Kenya's Editors Guild and the Kenyan Union of Journalists, the protest was sparked by alarming incidents involving media personnel, including the mistaken arrest of veteran journalist Macharia Gaitho and the shooting of Catherine Wanjeri, a correspondent for Kameme TV. In Nairobi, the protest commenced at 10 a.m. at the Nation Center, where journalists donned white t-shirts to symbolize peace. They marched to Jogo House to deliver a petition to Acting Inspector General Douglas Kanja before proceeding to Teleposta Towers to present the same petition to the Ministry of Information and Communications. The event concluded with a media briefing outside Teleposta Towers and an evening forum scheduled to discuss the day's events and future actions.
Kuungana na waandishi wa habari wenzangu kushinikiza serikali kwamba itupe uhuru zaidi, kwa sababu kama unavyojua ni kwamba waandishi wa habari kwenye maandamano haya Gen Z wamekuwa wengine wa mwandishi wa habari mmoja Nakuru wamepigwa risasi, wengine wamejeruhiwa, vyombo vya habari vimeumia. Kwa hiyo ni kusema kwamba nimekuja kuunga mkono waandishi wa habari wenzangu na kuishinikiza serikali itupatie uhuru wetu zaidi, tufanye kazi yetu kama waandishi wa habari.
Basically, what we are saying is that the government must respect freedom guaranteed under Article 34 of the Constitution. We do not want a situation where media practitioners, media personalities and journalists are practicing in fear just because of reckless abductions that we've seen in the past, just because of police harassment and because of intimidation from either the state or any other agency. That is why today we are saying you must respect Article 34 of the Constitution. Let media operate freely. Let journalists source for information. We do not want a situation to see where in Parliament you are told so and so will not cover Parliament because he did A, B, C, D. We must be given a free space to operate. We must be given to enjoy our rights as guaranteed under Article 34 of the Constitution.
As a journalist, I'm standing with the rest of my colleagues here to say that enough is enough. We should stop the threats that are being leveled against the journalists on the line of duty. We should stop those ones who are being threatened directly by the public because their numbers are being shared online. Threatened even economically, that's the media houses, because now the resources and revenue has thinned and it's not being directed to them deliberately. So also to block out media houses from opportunities simply because they're reporting in a particular way, or even threats in their operational work on a day-to-day basis, we say enough is enough and we don't stand for that. So free press is what we're here to stand for.
Habari atafungiwa nje. Mbona Sega anabaguliwa? Ni hatua gani ametekeleza? Kama kuna makosa amefanya, achukuliwe hatua za kisheria. Yes. Lakini si vile kwamba kusema fulani anaweza kuingia, yes, fulani hawezi kuingia. Majengo ya bunge ni ya umma. Yes. Ndio? Hakuna mtu anaingia hapa na bunduki, hakuna mtu anaingia na risasi. Yes. Wanakuja kuangazia na kufahamisha mwananchi na kile ambacho kinaendelea. Yes. Ni vipi mnasema kwamba fulani hawezi kuingia, kwani yeye ni gaidi? We are not criminals. We are not criminals. We are not criminals. We are not criminals. Kila mwanahabari ana haki ya kuangazia habari na kufahamisha mwananchi kile ambacho kinaendelea bila ubaguzi wowote. Ahadi ambayo Kingi aliweka, ahadi ambayo Weta aliweka ni lazima watimize. Wanahabari wote waruhusiwe kuingia bungeni. Haya ni majengo ya umma, yanafadhiliwa na pesa za umma. Yes. Kwa hivyo kila mtu ana haki, hata mwananchi wa kawaida huyu anayepita hapa ana haki ya kuingia katika majengo ya bunge. Hakuna vile inaweza kusemekana kwamba fulani hawezi kuingia. Na ndio ujumbe tunataka ufikishwe kwa clerk, ufikishwe kwa speaker, wote. Na tutarudi. Na tukiona mwanahabari mwingine anatishiwa, tutarudi.
The president, while addressing the media during a church service in Bomet County on Sunday, urged journalists to report responsibly, cautioning against glorifying anarchy in their coverage. His comments have sparked speculations about whether he implied that the media is contributing to the unrest, or if it was merely a polite reminder for responsible reporting.
Reporting, celebrating, encouraging violence, destruction of property, anarchy, mayhem is irresponsible.
The protest underscored the growing frustrations within the media community regarding the government's approach to press freedom and the safety of journalists. Kenya Editors Guild President Zubeida Kananu emphasized the importance of these demonstrations, stating that if necessary, journalists will continue to take to the street to assert their rights. This protest occurs amid ongoing criticism of National Police Service's handling of protest, which have resulted in numerous fatalities and heightened calls for accountability and reform within the police force. The situation is further compounded by a significant decline in Kenya's press freedom ranking, dropping from 69 to 116 in the 2023 Reporters Without Press Freedom Index, attributed to increased harassment of journalists since President Ruto's election in August 2022. Susan Nganga, GBS News.
And now moving to matters international news, we do understand that Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is addressing the U.S. Congress at the moment. And for more details, let us listen in.
They refuse to make the simple distinction between those who target terrorists and those who target civilians, between the democratic state of Israel and the terrorist thugs of Hamas. We recently learned from the National Security Director, U.S. Director of National Intelligence, that Iran is funding and promoting anti-Israel protests in America. They want to disrupt America. So these protesters burn American flags even on the 4th of July. And I wish to salute the fraternity brothers at the University of North Carolina who protected the American flag against these anti-Israel protesters. Iran's useful idiots. Some of these protesters, and it's amazing, absolutely amazing, some of these protesters hold up signs proclaiming gays for Gaza. They might as well hold up signs saying chickens for KFC. These protesters chant from the river to the sea, but many don't have a clue what river and what sea they're talking about. They not only get an F in geography, they get an F in history. They call Israel a colonialist state. Don't they know that the land of Israel is where Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob prayed, where Isaiah and Jeremiah preached, and where David and Solomon ruled? For nearly 4,000 years, the land of Israel has been the homeland of the Jewish people. It's always been our home. It will always be our home. It's not only the campus protesters who get it wrong. It's also the people who run those campuses. 80 years of Harvard, say my alma mater.
Many thanks. We'll be giving you more detail as the conversation continues. And now moving on, officers of the Kenya Police Service and those in the prison service will receive the first salary increase installment this month, President William Ruto has said. The president said the government is keen on honoring its commitment to improve the welfare of the security officers. He, however, noted that this places greater expectations on the service delivery, both from Kenyans and himself. He spoke during the swearing-in ceremony of Mr. Patrick Mwiti Arandu as the Commissioner General of Prisons at State House, Nairobi. President Ruto expressed confidence in Mr. Aradu's ability to lead the planned transformation of the prison service. President Ruto urged Mr. Aradu to ensure that arable land within the prison service is cultivated for food production to be supplied to the institutions and support the country. He said the prisons and the State Department of Housing will work together to build decent housing for prison officers.
I, Patrick Mwiti Arandu, do swear that I will well and truly serve the Republic of Kenya in the office of the Commissioner General of Prisons of the Kenya Prison Service, and that I will do justice in accordance with this Constitution of Kenya as by law established, and in accordance with the laws and customs of the Republic, without fear or favor, affection or ill will. So help me God. Thank you.
Congratulations to you, Commissioner General Mwiti, for this very well-deserved appointment as Commissioner General in a career that has seen you put many years behind the prison service. I am persuaded and confident that the responsibilities that have been assigned to you as Commissioner General by virtue of this appointment are merited, and the prison service is looking forward to your leadership as you lead the prisons team in making sure that our correctional services are managed appropriately in the best interests of the country. And the reform process that is going on at the prisons will be undertaken under your watch and stewardship. And I want to pledge and commit my support and that of the entire government to you and the prison service as you undertake the great transformation that we want of the prisons service.
The aftermath of the April-May floods continues to reverberate through the education sector as more than 15,000 students across 62 schools remains unable to attend classes for the second term. A joint survey conducted by the Kenya Human Rights Commission and the Elimu Yetu Coalition revealed that the floods severely damaged crucial educational facilities, exacerbating the disruption to learning in affected schools. Here are the details. The impact of recent floods in April and May this year continues to cast a shadow over the country's education sector. More than 15,000 learners from 62 schools have been unable to return to the second term due to the devastating effects of the floods. According to a survey conducted by the Kenya Human Rights Commission and the Elimu Yetu Coalition, the floods caused significant damage to critical education infrastructure. This destruction has further hindered learning in schools that were already struggling to recover from the disaster.
We also had, I think in total, from the schools that we sampled, I need just to give it the figure, that more than 15,000 students or learners never reported back.
In a detailed breakdown provided by the survey, it was revealed that among the learners who did not return, 11% were students with special needs, underscoring the vulnerability of this group. Additionally, 9% of those affected were girls, highlighting a concerning gender disparity in the aftermath of the floods.
This one we have categorized and indicated that for the learners with special needs, 11% of that were learners with special needs. 9% of the category that did not report back were girls. And so these are numbers which still we do not know where they are. And we were asking also if there were any efforts being made by the local leadership to mop them and whip them back to school.
Despite the severity of the situation, efforts to support these affected learners and schools appear to be lacking at the local level. There has been little reported initiative from local leadership to facilitate the return of students to their studies, leaving many communities grappling with how to rebuild and revive their educational institutions.
There was no significant effort on that. The mechanism that also would help schools or learning centers really to overcome such attacks.
The challenges faced by these schools underscores the urgent need for robust mechanisms to mitigate the impact of natural disasters on education. As communities continue to recover, concerted efforts from both governmental and non-governmental bodies will be crucial in ensuring that all learners, regardless of their circumstances, can resume their education promptly and without further disruption. Do keep your comments coming in through our SMS line 21144 and GBS TV Africa on all our social media handles. That report brings us to our international news, but first let us take a quick commercial break.
In the Bible, it says no flesh shall be justified in his sight by the deeds of the law. Today, many people on Sunday, there's so many people who go to church out of formality and to keep these laws. Why did God send Jesus? Because all of the curse that we were supposed to receive, for Jesus to receive it in our stead. Truly to be saved, is it to do good things or to keep the 10 Commandments? No, it is so far from it. We are people who have already disobeyed it. God did not give the 10 Commandments so that you can be blessed and keep all of them.
Jina langu la usanii ni Nathcom Arts. I'm a painting artist, a self-taught painting artist.
It's a very big business in Nairobi.
Sure.
So ni nini unaekanga different? Unaekanga art yako hapo kwa hiyo bed ama unaekanga aje?
What I need for me to do painting on canvas. Yeah, to be precise. He introduced me to doing painting on canvas.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I need for me to do painting on canvas.
Umetuambia your mentor for paintings ni Jose Arts.
Yeah.
Mentor wako wa furniture na wood ni nani?
First of all, I'm a fan of nature. And everything that I paint to do with nature must be something I've experienced.
Oh, okay.
So most of the time when I'm doing any painting to do with nature, huwa na try kuonyesha or maybe to express my experiences.
Utatuonesha pia hiyo clock venye it's really really amazing, the clock. Naona unapenda hii woodwork more. Hebu tu explain here.
Yes.
Utaambia watu your social media handles kwanza stock pale kidogo.
Everywhere, GBS.
Welcome back to the broadcast, and now to matters international news. Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is still addressing the U.S. Congress, and for more details, let's listen in.
We will export our revolution to the entire world. We will export the Islamic revolution to the entire world. Now ask yourself, which country ultimately stands in the way of Iran's maniacal plans to impose radical Islam on the world? And the answer is clear. It's America, the guardian of Western civilization and the world's greatest power. That's why Iran sees America as its greatest enemy. Last month, we heard a revealing comment, ostensibly about the war in Gaza, but about something else. It came from the foreign minister of Iran's proxy, Hezbollah, and he said this is not a war with Israel. Israel, he said, is merely a tool. The main war, the real war, is with America. Iran's regime has been fighting America from the moment it came to power. In 1979, it stormed the American embassy. It held scores of Americans hostage for 444 days. Since then, Iran's terrorist proxies have targeted America in the Middle East and beyond. In Beirut, they killed 241 US servicemen. In Africa, they bombed American embassies. In Iraq, they supplied explosives to maim and kill thousands of American soldiers. In America, they actually sent death squads. They sent death squads here to murder a former Secretary of State and a former National Security Advisor. And as we recently learned, they even brazenly threatened to assassinate President Trump. But Iran understands that to truly challenge America, it must first conquer the Middle East. And for this, it uses its many proxies, including the Houthis, Hezbollah, and Hamas. Yet in the heart of the Middle East, standing in Iran's way, is one proud pro-American democracy, my country, the State of Israel. That's why the mobs in Tehran chant death to Israel before they chant death to America. For Iran, Israel is first, America is next. So when Israel fights Hamas, we're fighting Iran. When we fight Hezbollah, we're fighting Iran. When we fight the Houthis, we're fighting Iran. And when we fight Iran, We're fighting the most radical and murderous enemy of the United States of America. And one more thing. When Israel acts to prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons that could destroy Israel and threaten every American city, every city that you come from, we're not only protecting ourselves, we're protecting you.
Very interesting conversation, and of course we'll be keeping you up with the details as the conversation continues. Moving on, dozens of people in Uganda were arrested on Tuesday as they attempted to stage protest against high-level corruption near the parliament building in Kampala. The demonstrations were deemed unlawful by authorities, leading to a heavy deployment of police and military forces to disperse the protesters. Despite facing a heavy crackdown from security forces, protesters were determined to make their voices heard. Here is the full report.
The situation in Uganda remains tense as security forces arrested multiple individuals attempting to demonstrate against corruption near the parliament building in Kampala on Tuesday. Police and the military were out in full force, with reports of protesters being forcibly removed and loaded into trucks. Protests, inspired by similar movements in Kenya, came in response to mounting allegations of corruption against Parliament Speaker Anita Among. Among has faced calls for her resignation following revelations of alleged irregular expenditure within her office. Anti-corruption campaign shows no signs of slowing down as Ugandans continue to demand transparency and accountability from their government. Irene Juguna, GBS News.
The death toll from two devastating landslides in southern Ethiopia has risen to at least 229, according to local officials. The landslide occurred in a remote Gopher zone on Monday, triggered by heavy rainfall during the country's rainy season, which began in July and is expected to last until mid-September. The first landslide buried numerous individuals, while the second struck shortly after, claiming the lives of several rescuers who had rushed to assist. Here is more on the same.
More than 200 people have been killed in two landslides in southern Ethiopia, according to government officials who want the number could increase. According to the state officials, the first landslide, triggered by heavy rains in a remote region of Gopher Zone, occurred on Monday and was followed by a second one that buried people who had gathered to help. As images showed people digging into the red earth with their bare hands, Metuko stated they would need earth-moving machines to assist in the recovery operations.
The incident happened following heavy rains. The damage is extensive. Initially, there were 3 families that were buried by the landslide. We are still searching for their bodies, but the death toll surged after the people who came to rescue them also got trapped.
The state had been battered by the short seasonal rains between April and May that caused flooding and mass displacement, according to the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. It is stated in May that floods impacted over 19,000 people in several zones, displacing over 1,000 and causing damage to livelihoods and infrastructure. The southern region has experienced landslide previously, with at least 32 people killed in 2018 after a separate incident within a week of each other. Pediskego, GBS News.
The United Kingdom's new Home Secretary, Keir Starmer, has condemned the costly and ineffective Rwanda migrant relocation plan initiated by former Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, labeling it as a shocking waste of taxpayers' money totaling to £700 million. Starmer swiftly halted the controversial scheme, which aimed to curb asylum seekers crossing the English Channel. The move comes amid revelations of staggering financial expenditures and legal setbacks, marking a critical turn in the country's immigration policy. Here are the details.
Taking office earlier this month, Starmer terminated the controversial plan which was designed by Sunak to stem the flow of asylum seekers crossing the English Channel from France. The scheme had faced significant legal challenges and widespread criticism from various human rights organizations. Yvette Cooper revealed the financial implications of Sunak's strategy, including £290 million paid to Rwanda, despite no deportation flights being executed. Additional costs included expenses for chartering unused flights, detaining and subsequently releasing hundreds of individuals, and funding for a substantial bureaucratic apparatus. Cooper, addressing the parliament on the issue, highlighted that the prior government had planned to allocate over £10 billion for the controversial project without proper parliamentary scrutiny. The Rwandan government clarified its stance, asserting it bore no obligation to reimburse the funds in question. Musyoki Thomas, GBS News.
The United Nations has reported that nearly 40 million people were living with HIV in 2023, underscoring persistent challenges in the fight against AIDS pandemic. A recent UN AIDS report highlighted a concerning gap in treatment access, rising new infections in key regions, and the stark reality of AIDS-related deaths despite advances in medical interventions. Here is more on the same.
The U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, has extended a helping hand to Haiti in their time of need. Thomas-Greenfield aims to address the ongoing humanitarian crisis and security challenges plaguing the nation. Additionally, the U.S. will provide vital training from Kenyan police to bolster the Haitian National Police Force in their fight against gang violence.
Them work so closely together, seeing the amazing operation that has been developed here for them is quite impressive, and it shows, one, the Kenyan commitment, the Haitian National Police commitment, but also the commitment of the international community to support Haiti.
With gangs controlling a significant portion of the capital and surrounding areas, the situation in Haiti has resulted in widespread displacement and food insecurity for millions. Commitment to supporting Haiti on its path to security and democracy remains steadfast as the nation continues its journey towards political reform and democratic elections. Irene Jigona, GBS News.
Kamala Harris is poised to potentially become the first female president of the United States following President Joe Biden's recent announcement that he will not seek re-election. Citing concerns about his age and a poor debate performance, Biden has endorsed Harris to take his place in the upcoming presidential race against Republican candidate Donald Trump. If she wins the Democratic nomination and defeats the Republican Donald Trump in the November election, Harris will make history. Here is the full report.
Vice President Kamala Harris has secured enough delegate support to become the presumptive Democratic nominee for president in 2024, setting her up to potentially make history as the first woman and first person of color to hold the nation's highest office. Harris, who is of Jamaican and Indian descent, will be the first female president if she wins the general election against Republican nominee Donald Trump. The 59-year-old has broken barriers throughout her career, becoming the first woman, first African American, and first Asian American to serve as California's Attorney General, U.S. Senator, and Vice President. While some Democrats have expressed concerns about Harris' nomination, she is widely viewed as a favorite to replace the retiring President Biden on the ticket. Prominent Democrats have rallied behind Harris, who has been a vocal advocate for abortion rights and has played a key role in reaching out to younger people and voters of color.
The first female president, there would be historical implications, but my strongest emotions for the election are just being anti-Donald J. Trump. That's the biggest thing for me, just not him.
However, Harris faces an uphill battle as polls show skepticism about her among the broader electorate. To win in November, Harris will need to energize Black and Asian voters while also appealing to a wider range of Americans who are wary of the divisive politics of the Trump era. Alex Mwangi, GBS News.
Do keep your comments coming in through our SMS line 21144 and GBS TV Africa on all our social media handles. And now for sports lovers, it is time for your most anticipated part of the news, the sports news. Let's get sporty. Rugby Sevens will kick off the Olympic Games Paris 2024 in Stade de France. Shujaa had been drawn in Group B of this year's Paris Olympic Games. Kenya will face Argentina, Australia and Samoa. Shujaa will get Kenya's Olympic Games 2024 underway in Paris on Wednesday evening against Argentina in Group B starting at 5 p.m. Shujaa will then face Australia at 8 p.m. before concluding their group fixtures on Thursday against Samoa. Shujaa booked their ticket to this year's games after winning the African title last year in Zimbabwe and will be appearing for a third time in Paris. Kenya finished 11th in 2016 in Rio Olympic Games, losing all matches before improving in the Tokyo 2020 edition, which was held in 2021, where they finished 9th. Host nation France faced tough Pool C opponents such as two-time Olympic champions Fiji, USA and Uruguay. Recently qualified South Africa will go up against Tokyo 2020 silver medalist New Zealand, Ireland and Japan, who will be looking to go one step further in the capital of France. Uruguay and Samoa will make their Olympic debuts. The men's competition will take place from the 24th to the 27th of July. And that sports news brings us to the end of our news segment tonight. Here at GBS News at 9, we make your news our business. My name is Beatrice Njeri. Our sign language interpreter is Paul Mathenge. Good night.